I'm not doing a victory lap as some would conclude over Shohei Ohtani remaining with the Angels. I had no inside information, but I did, like, you're sitting there watching and you're going, man, are they not going to trade this guy? You got to trade this guy. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, on one hand, you can get a Pirates bounty on the trade. In addition to the Pirates bounty, like after the 10-game losing streak, now they can actually potentially make the playoffs, and he can set the home run record. But you're always looking for kind of reactions, right? And reactions to decisions that are made. And, I mean, sometimes those reactions aren't instant, and sometimes the instant reactions aren't sustainable. But for Shohei Ohtani himself to be so rumored in trade discussions, and then for the announcement to come out that he was not going to be traded, and then the next day he plays in a doubleheader, which he starts, and then it DHs in the second game. Here's the end of his start yesterday.
This would be the first complete game shutout, and there it is. Shohei Ohtani goes all 9.
And there it is, first career complete game shutout for the Unicorn.
The soon-to-be two-time AL MVP has never been better on a big league mound. His first career complete game shutout, only 1 hit, only 4 base runners.
Wow. Only 1 hit, only 4. And granted, Detroit stinks, okay? But he was awesome. And if you thought that was good, wait to hear what he did in the nightcap.
Some clapping for Shohei, who goes to the opposite field. Get going, yeah! His major league leading 37. Offo shot.
And then, of course, he hit his 38th.
Oh, he got another one. Get going. Ohtani has done it again. Santa Maria. Complete game shutout. Check. 2 homers in the nightcap. Check.
That's all Bally's Sports Network with the calls. Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. The thing about baseball, and especially about home run hitters, is it's a little bit like the original Jurassic Park. You guys remember the original Jurassic Park? I was watching it a week ago, maybe last Sunday I was watching it.
You can find it anywhere, Doug. It's all over the place, all the Jurassic Parks, but yes. Yeah,
so the original Jurassic Park was on, and I want to say it was like on TNT or Paramount or something, where there was commercials, and I got sucked into watching it. And I remember the T-Rex scene, the original T-Rex scene before the T-Rex attacks him. Remember they go over, they're in the Jeeps, and they pull up to the T-Rex area, and nothing happens. Nothing happens. Zero. Even they put a goat out there, and the goat's like, nothing happens. And my guess would be if Jurassic Park was a real place, it would really be hard to get the exact right timing of feeding and seeing all these prehistoric creatures at the exact right moment, right? That's a hard thing to calculate the timing of it. And in many ways, like, baseball is like that as well. Like, you can go to the park and you can see Aaron Judge, and he goes 0 for 4. Like, what happened? Judge went 0 for 4. He fouled one off that went really far. Like, well, that doesn't really do anything for me. No, he fouled it off. It went really far. Imagine going, and we discussed this yesterday. None of us have been to I don't think we've been to a doubleheader. Did you say, Ramos, you've been to a doubleheader?
Yeah, when I was like probably 15 or 16 years old. I mean, that's a long time ago, man.
It's a lot of baseball.
That is a lot of baseball.
I don't know. I just think that, to me, I would never go to a doubleheader in baseball. I couldn't do it. Now, maybe times have changed now, because if you bring in your iPad and you get your phone, like, you can do like a working lunch. You got a buddy with you, drink some beers, you're on your iPad during the breaks or whatever. Game moves a little, but that's a lot of investment. Imagine, though, if you're like, man, I'm just going to go and try and see Shohei do something cool. And then he pitches a one-hitter, like, man, that was great. You want to go? Like, stick around for the second game. Then he hits 2 home runs. Talk about value added to your ticket. Unbelievable. And for the Angels, it's one of those, we don't know what the returns will be on the decision, but man, it appears to be a really good decision. Because had they not done that, he might not have been playing. If they were going to trade Shohei Ohtani, he wouldn't have pitched yesterday. Why would you throw him out there to potentially ruin his arm so that it lessens his trade value? The whole thing was predicated on the decision. And, look, I don't know how you guys are as decision makers. Sometimes I've lost my confidence in my decisions. I'll make a decision like, And the thing about Artie Moreno is everybody says, well, you bet on yourself. You're not really betting on yourself. You're betting on a bunch of other guys to do what you hope they can do. I think it's the most interesting thing going in sports right now. And granted, the NFL's not playing. The NBA, there's nobody being traded. But you take a look at all baseball, you have unquestionably the best player in the sport who does things we have not seen, things we haven't seen ever in baseball, ever. It's like we talk about Babe Ruth, like Babe Ruth wasn't as good as this guy. Obviously, as a hitter, he was incredible. But as a pitcher, he wasn't this guy. So then, you take all of those factors, and you sit there and go, man, this guy could have been traded, could have gotten a bunch to try and rebuild this club. And, by the way, there is no rule that you can't be traded. As we discussed yesterday, Ramos, you can be traded and they can bring you back.
Yep.
The likelihood, obviously, is slight, but if the argument was, hey, man, we trade you and look at all we got, now we have a better team for you. But instead, I think that his persona, body language, buy-in, I think all of that, and their recent success, they looked at it and go like, Shohei's happy. He kind of likes it here. Let's try and make him more happy, get into the playoffs, offer him a bunch of money, and take a shot. That's really the betting on yourself. Take a shot. What could it hurt? Yes, they can lose out on several prospects they would have gotten. And that, if he doesn't sign, I don't know if it sets them back years, it keeps them at where that's an important thing to realize. It doesn't set them back years if they don't get prospects for Shohei Ohtani because, I don't think they expected to trade Shohei Ohtani. They wanted this marriage to last forever. It's like when you get divorced, you split up half your stuff. Oh, I lost half my money. Well, if you didn't think of it as half all your money anyway, it doesn't feel as bad. So they're not setting their franchise back any further. They could have propelled their franchise potentially with an influx of talent from a trade deadline move in the future. No question. But the other way to look at it is, if you trade away Shohei, you're waving the white flag, he's not coming back. And if he doesn't come back, you're setting your franchise back regardless. Whereas this is really the only way to set it truly on a forward course. Does that make sense? It made sense in my brain. The show, how did that make sense,
Yeah,
Ramos?
it did. And, what's interesting, too, is that, when I was younger, I wanted to go to the games to see Pete Rose and to see, the stars of the game, the Johnny Benches. And these were guys who were must-see. Every time a team came in, everybody had one player on their team that you just wanted to see. And I think Shohei Ohtani is one player on the Angels team that not only the Angels people want to see, but like everywhere he goes, people want to see him play. I got lucky and got to see him play in a preseason game at Dodger Stadium before last season, where the Dodgers were just playing there, and they usually play their main players for 3 innings, right? They usually put him out there, and Shohei was one of those guys out there, and my camera was fixed on him for every at bat. Every time he came up, I was taking pictures of Shohei because I just wanted to see him. And I'm not Jason Stewart, right, Doug? I am an Angels fan. I enjoy the Angels. I rooted for them in 82 and 79 and 86 when they won the World Series. I was on the edge of my seat when Troy Percival won that game. I am not a hater of the Angels. I love them. They're in the American League. They're not in the National League. And to me, they're the other team I root for when it comes to California baseball.
Well, I mean, I would tell you, I grew up an Angel fan. My dad was a Mets fan. So I came out, we moved out here in 81. Like I immediately, or very early on, became an Angel fan. And it was Angels and Mets really my household. And I always liked the Dodgers, went to the 88 World Series. But I think this transcends even the idea of the Angels, right? It's you have this incredibly dynamic player who, by all accounts, wired differently, right, than American or Caribbean-born players. And the question is always, when a guy doesn't speak the language, what are his values? Like Japanese baseball players' values in terms of how they approach and attack the game is amazing. But in terms of competitiveness, like you just don't know. And I'm going to tell you, like this dude's a competitor. Like playing both of those games, hitting home runs. You look at all these big spots he's been in. Hey, you don't come up at every spot. That's not, the sport doesn't work that way. I can't tell you how impressed I am with him, the competitor. And I'm guessing that that's part of the calculation. You're like, look, I don't know if we're that good, but this dude's a hellacious competitor. If we got a shot, he's going to get us over the top.
And by the way, he's not the very first. He's not. I mean, he is a hybrid unicorn of one of a kind. But Japanese baseball players have been doing well in American baseball for quite a while. I mean, Matsui, Ichiro, the Dodgers have had Nomo, who, by the way, threw a no-hitter in Colorado, which nobody else has done. And, Colorado is it's like the launching pad of baseball balls, right? So, I mean, this guy threw a no-hitter there. So, I think we love the Japanese baseball players. I think they love to come to America and play here. And I think Shohei is just the ultimate of that experience that has happened over the many years.
Well, he's also a gigantic man.
Yeah, he's like 6'4", right? Or 6'5", yeah.
Like 6'5". He's a gigantic man.